If you have a brick patio or a brick walkway and there are stairs involved, or even an edging that you've done with these 4x4s, you'll be really happy with it for the first year or two. And then all of a sudden, you'll notice that as you're going up the stairs, they don't have that nice flush feeling anymore, because between the frost and other mitigating factors, you end up with the bricks always sinking beneath the level of the frame. And this will happen no matter how careful you are, because I know how careful I was when I built these. I was extremely careful. I was beyond careful, really, and they've still sunk. So it's been a couple of years, and it's time to repair these stairs and bring them back up to level again. Here's the deal. Some important tools to have. You get this in the painting section of your hardware store. It's a kind of a pry bar, but it's really sharp, and it's great for trying to horse bricks out of tight spaces. And then this thing is just another, it's a Japanese-made tool, another kind of a pry bar. But this will help if you've got one of these two tools, or both of them. And the first thing you want to do is get rid of all the flotsam on top of the bricks, because anything that will turn into compost under there will eventually turn into dirt, which will eventually grow things like maple trees if you're not careful. So I'll just get rid of all the stuff. Now the first brick is going to be the hardest, of course. So you have to invoke the powers of the brick gods. And it's usually easier to start with an edge one. So you kind of walk the brick out using, both of the prying tools. Like so. Okay, so I've got all the bricks up, and now I'm going to remove the debris. So I have actually attained a debris bucket at this point. And the reason that's important is because, like I said before, you don't want any lumpy bits, and you don't want any earth under here. It should be a medium that nothing will grow in, so you want it to be pure sand. The whole thing is dished a little bit. It's sunk more in the center than it did at the sides. So I'm going to start adding my clean sand. I'll start adding it in the middle. Okay, so tamping. You can use something like this if you have one, which is a float for doing cement work. Okay, so you can use something like this, but you can see it doesn't work that well because it's not terribly heavy. So try this, the brownie pan, right? I love this. So that works pretty well, and you can see through it, so you know if you've still got some high or low spots. Okay, so I'm going to finish adding the sand to this, and then I've got a trick to show you to level it out so that you know, because when you look at it with the bare naked eye, you can't exactly tell if it's level all the way across. So then you start putting your bricks in, and then you got to pull them all out again because you've got a low spot. So I'll show you a trick to avoid that. Next time I make brownies, they're going to be a little gritty, but I'm not telling anybody why. Okay, so I'm tamping. I'm doing the tamping dance. Okay, and I'm getting my tamping happening. Okay, so now I can lift out my tamper and notice where the low spots are. See, there's one here, and there's another low spot here. So I'll just add a little sand. What would be truly ideal, though, is if you had a baking pan that was the same height as the bricks, because then you could run it along the top like this and check the level on it. But we don't quite have that here, so there's another trick to take a board like this and a tape measure, and just check, just go along and check to see that you have the same level across the whole expanse. Okay, things are looking good now, so I'm ready to put the bricks back into position. And it's really important as you do that, if you haven't already done it, to clean off the bricks as you go, because like I said before, you want to discourage things from growing up between the bricks. So make sure they're clean going back in. And drop them in. And like I said, I'm setting them just a little bit high so that I don't have to do this again for another 2 years or so. Okay, now, it's important to pay attention as you go. This brick, for whatever reason, it could be the shape of the brick, or it could be a flaw in my in the way I leveled the sand, but it's a bit low. So this is where it just gets a little picky. You sprinkle a little sand in, and then you level it with the brick. So that brings it up to the right level. You can adjust a little bit as you go with the bricks. There. So things are looking good now the way they are. There's maybe a couple of bigger gaps, but what I'm about to do is actually take what's left of my sand and dump it right on top. And then you can use any tool that you have to just draw it over, and you're wanting it to sink into the cracks now, because the sand is really cool how it packs and then acts almost like mortar, so the bricks can't shift around because they're wedged in by sand on all sides. So you just keep drawing the sand across the surface until the holes are starting to fill up. Okay, so then I'll use the prying tool that I had in the beginning and just go along like this to see there's a big blank spot there. Try this side. See how the sand just sinks, because it's a bit wet, so it's clinging to the edge of the brick. So all you're doing is getting rid of the air pockets and pushing the sand right to the bottom of the joint. So it's going to take probably about the same amount of sand again to really bring the holes up to the joints up to where they should be in terms of sand capacity. I've packed as much sand as I can, or at least as I think I can, into these joints so that when I tap them with the trowel, I don't see a big hole appear. But this is where it's tricky, because it may look like it's good, but when you pour water over it, you quickly find, usually at least you quickly find, see that? You find where the sand still, see, look at them all. There's lots of holes still. Oh, look, there's a beauty right there. And it sometimes takes actually a few days of coming back and putting more sand on top and just sweeping dry sand over it with a broom until it sinks into the holes. Because look, if I go like this, see how that brick is moving around? If the sand were really packed in tightly enough, it wouldn't be moving. You want them to be, like these two are pretty good. You want them to not be able to shift at all. That one's still all kinds of movement around it. All right, and the other thing is that if you've got a high spot, like here, I ended up with this corner of the brick a little bit elevated. You can take a rubber mallet and just whap it once or twice, and it sinks it down to the right level. Of course, then this brick seems a little bit low, so don't chase your tail too much on this one, because it can drive you crazy. If you've got old people or very young people or just uncoordinated people living in your home, it's a good idea to top the bricks up on your patios and steps. As you can see, it doesn't take a lot of time, and it's actually kind of fun. Huh? I need that music from that Caribbean place. Just be glad that you're doing this outside in nature, enjoying yourself way more than other adults on the street.